All right, welcome to the Storymakers interview series, where we dive deep into our favorite narratives and highlight the dedicated creators who bring them to life. This series and our other platforms and channels are part of a larger mission to create an intuitive web space for storytellers from all backgrounds. Our web app will help storytellers publish custom manga, webtoons, comics, and other stories. If you'd like to learn more, please visit storystorm.co. I'm Jeremy Moore, CEO of storystorm.co. Today, we're lucky enough to have Mr. Fred Grant, a multi-talented author, filmmaker, and creator of the Crusadia Connected webcomic series. Hi, Fred. How are you?
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Feels great to be here.
Awesome. We're just really excited to have you here. I kind of just want to dive right in. Do you have any questions before we do?
Yeah, tell me all about it. I'm always curious to learn new things.
Okay. Um, you want to learn about Storm, or are you ready? Are you ready to go through the interview?
Yeah, tell me about story
Oh,
storm.
okay. Awesome, man. Yeah. So what we're building is the Canva equivalent of, a storage making app, essentially. Have you ever used Canva.com?
No.
Canva.com is what they claim to be the future of publishing, right? So they're a graphics editor where, a high school student to someone 99 years old simply could go in and create something like a custom presentation, poster, postcard, a lot of different graphic design files. And they have the entire graphic design workflow in one website. I found myself using it. It's really convenient. I'm kind of in the same belief that it is the future of publishing because it's all in one web app. Desktop apps have different directories you have to have, and there's space allocations and concerns and whatnot. So it's a really fast, convenient process. So what we're trying to build is a web app that will do the same thing for someone looking to create a webtoon, manga, comic, film storyboard, or whatnot. We want to do that for the storytelling process.
Very cool. I know the big appeal to me is, sites like Webtoon and Tapas just because it's good for creators starting out or just that want to get noticed who even been doing it for years. It's, marketing's a big key. Let alone getting the skills to actually do all the work, but then getting it out there is just a whole nother hassle, a whole nother job. So yeah, I think whatever can help creators and people see the creations is always beneficial.
Absolutely, man. And so Canva has this export feature, or you can send it digitally to a number of social media profiles, basically all across the web, and you can even get print versions. So that's a big consideration we're making. So far, I've talked to a lot of creatives who have that issue of having their stuff recognized. So we're trying to solve that problem. That's one of the key problems we're trying to solve.
Very cool.
Absolutely, man. Now back to you. So, where do you come from, and what did you do there? Just start from wherever you think is significant.
Well, actually, sorry, to go back to what you just kind of touched on.
Hmm.
Sorry, I had to like process a little bit.
Yeah.
Is how are you? What problems are you seeing pop up,
Mhm.
and how are you kind of dealing with those, or are you taking anything? Are you approaching anything in a new way? Um,
Yes. So one of the main problem, our target customer is any creative who's not a, like, or any person who's creative but not a professional creative. That's the same thing with Canva. We wanted to empower more people to do creative work, right? Our goal is to get these people, may work in different industries or whatnot, to have them be able to express their idea in a form of a visual story, and then utilize and empower illustrators and creatives as well in the process. So we want to empower those two. We want to empower one group by empowering another. Does that make sense?
mhm.
Um, as far as creating visual stories, we have a thing called art kits that we're developing. They're actually in our e-commerce site right now, where illustrations are built instead of drawn from scratch, essentially. Just like you get, in a big Lego set, you get a bunch of Legos, you can make a bunch of different custom creations. We're looking to do the same thing for an illustration, and eventually, a bunch of illustrations, equals a visual story.
Very cool.
Thank you so much, Fred. It's really nice to engage with creatives like yourself and get that good feedback.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Everything's changing so fast, with everything going digital and stuff like that. It's just, for me, it's hard to keep track of. And what's that new thing that everybody's using? Like I'm 33, and it's so funny how you just out of school for just a few years and you just already are behind the times. What's that thing that Concord? I can't remember what it's called, but it's the thing that everyone's chatting on these days. And like I'm like
Discord.
Discord. That's
Yeah.
it. I was like Concord.
No, you know that.
Discord. I can't get it. I just I was never a Twitter person, and so I don't get Discord. I mean, I guess chatting with people, and I mean, I think it's really cool, and it seems to be catching on. I think there's just so many outlets, and everything's changing constantly. So what's yesterday's problem? Tomorrow's problem is solved, but then we got a new problem tomorrow. So it's just
That's true.
ever changing. So
Have you ever used Slack?
no.
Slack and Discord are kind of similar, where the I don't know if you remember the um like forum boards of old, like back when we had AOL, there used to be these internet forums. Essentially, they're like live internet forums. They kind of cache and store data, so you can always go reference them. And then they create active conversations too with the active users.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I think I did do Slack. I work with freelancers all the time, and they're constantly like, "Hey, let's go on this message board." I mean, Discord. I even used that one time, for something, and I think I did use Slack one time. So, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's people that want to use WeChat, and what's the other one? There's another one as well, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna download all the apps. Whatever you guys want to talk on, I'll talk on. It's just, yeah. There's so much stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the future of productivity is just web based, and that's what Slack, Discord, even Twitter now. A lot of those apps do. They digitize and make it really convenient in one place to coordinate,
Cool.
collaborate. Yeah,
Very cool.
man. I'm so glad you're interested. It's a passion project of ours. Myself and Trinity, we're really excited about developing this proposition and then empowering storytellers. That's what the main thing is. What the our podcast series is about. It's what the app is about. I'm a storyteller myself. Trinity is, and we just see a need, a need in the market to empower these people.
Very cool. When I was an intern, on my like first, I guess, job or internship in college, um, there was this producer. I had to go. I paid my dues. Let me tell you this. I had to, run around, production assistant, all that stuff. But one of the things that was really interesting and kind of stuck with me was I went to go pick up some producer or whatever for a commercial or something. I don't know. It was like Cartoon Network related or Turner related. And I picked him up in the car, and he was just on his phone the entire time. He didn't really talk to me. But then he stopped talking and he looked at me. He's like, "What do you think the future is going to be of like storytelling and like?" Because we were talking about this is film related, but I was like, oh, I don't know, whatever. I gave him some kind of answer on the spot, and then I was like, well, what about you? And he goes, I think the future of storytelling is going to be a bunch of mini channels with their own followings. And I kind of see that forming. I think YouTube is the biggest example of that. We have so many channels, so much content. All these social media apps are popping up, like Tapas and
Mm-hmm.
Webtoon.
Oh yeah.
And oh, man, what's the other one that's like a website builder? I don't know, but everything's popping up, and what you're seeing is I think you're seeing just so many more channels, and you're seeing the saturation of things. But like within that, the people that are good and keep at it, they're able to find little niche audiences, and it's great to have these platforms, and to get them out. So, kudos to you. I say keep trying.
Yeah, I think there's enough room, in the storytelling community where everybody can shine. Just, yeah, we're definitely trying to make that a possibility, though. Definitely, connecting professional creatives with, amateur creatives and whatnot, since they have both of them benefit. Awesome. Anything else?
No, sorry, I cut you off like a
No,
million
no,
times.
no. This is organic, like you said, man. I hate to say that, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's space to highlight you, and I'm super interested. I'm super glad that you're interested in story. So thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So where do you come from?
So, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I came from Georgia. So I was born in Georgia, then moved to Los Angeles for from the time I was one till like 4 or 5. Then we moved back to Georgia. So Atlanta, Marietta, those are kind of my stomping grounds. I was kind of born there. I can't even tell you how many times every time we would go to Atlanta, we ate at the Varsity, and I'm so sick of the Varsity. I don't know if you've been to Atlanta, but man, that it's so good, but you always regret going afterwards. So it's just the food is so good, but so bad for you, I guess. But no hating on the Varsity. I'm just saying. Oh man, that's like my first memory, I think, of Atlanta. Anyway, yeah, that's where I'm from. I went to Georgia State University, graduated there with a film and marketing degree, and then right off the bat, I got an internship, right, like kind of, I guess, my last year of college. A friend of a friend got me an internship, and that led to a job, and then that led to another job, and pretty much worked in Georgia for like 10 years, I'd say 10, 12 years. um, and then it was funny because when I was in college, I had this friend. His name is Will Dev. Shout out. We were besties, and we were film guys, and like we saw in our class, like kind of everybody kind of slowly fall out of film, and kind of just the creative space. Like some people would get married, they would graduate and then not really know what to do with the film degree, and maybe go back and retrain or just find something else. So we made this pact where like when we graduate, we're gonna move to Los Angeles. We're gonna do the dream, try to make it happen. And so I graduated first, and um, I got a job. I got a pretty good job right off the bat. So I was good. I was like, I'm gonna retire here, whatever, be an editor, stuff like that. And then jobs in this business are not very stable in the sense of things are constantly changing. Going back to what I was talking about, is things are constantly changing, and you're having companies buy out other companies, and they're, a lot of film jobs are not looking for full time. They're more like contractor. Things are going from film to digital. Um, so it's very crazy time. So plus there was like a little minor recession going on, so jobs were kind of hard. But yeah, I just got job after job working just random production sets like PA or editor, or assistant editor, or like motion graphics or visual effects. Um, all in Georgia, and then 10 years in, I was kind of at this one job like really hated. And my friend Will was like, "Hey man, I'm moving out to LA. You got to come, man." And I was like, yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't know if I have the money for it. And he's like, "Just do it, man. Just do it." So he moved out ahead of me. He got a job right off the bat, production assistant or something, some kind of thing. And he's like, "I can do it. You can do it, man." And so I, not having a job, moved out, out of Georgia and into Los Angeles. And it was scary because I didn't have a job, and I didn't find a job for like 6 months. I was really like, "Oh man, this is seriously scary." There's a couple maybe freelance things here and there like that lasted a week or two or something, but I was looking for something that paid the bills. So it got to the point where I was like, "Okay, well, I went through my savings." Rent is very expensive in Los Angeles as well. It's like, man, a paycheck and a half. And so I was like, I'm gonna have to go. Like, I don't have any more money. I gotta go back to Atlanta. And he's like, no, no, just apply for one more job. And so he like went in my room, grabbed my laptop, sat it on my lap, and was like, apply just to one more job. And so I applied to one more job, and then I swear within like 3 hours, I got a call from Sony Pictures, and they were like, hey, we need like a contract editor to help us, with this like, they started like these new like side channels or whatever called like Get TV, Sony Movie Channel, Sony, and they needed somebody to kind of help, I guess, uh, consult on things, and it's just been my bread and butter from there. And it's allowed me to stem into other things too. Like I've been able to create like an LLC and to take my own jobs and stuff since then. And
Nice.
um, yeah, it's just been great since then. So sorry, I went on a really long ramble, but long story short, from Georgia, now in Los Angeles. So
No, man, that's good context. That's good context. I don't love to hear it, but it's pretty common theme in a lot of creators I talk to that there's a struggle somewhere in the J. Like to have that creative pursuit, man, there's a struggle in there.
oh boy, man, the struggle is real. Like I can't even tell you. There's been times where I have, you know, less than $200 in my bank account. I've had like $20 in my bank account before, and I'm just like, man, it's terrifying. And somehow this, so this is like one thing I kind of have noticed that like I do that I noticed that not a lot of other people do, and I think maybe it's just luck. Hopefully luck and skill.
Mhm.
But like if I get stuck somewhere, I just go, you know what, I'm trying to make this work, but I need to try something else and do something else. And then I just do it. And then somehow or another, the job finds me and the money comes. And it's been really crazy because, like, back in Georgia, a lot of my friends are still doing the same thing. Like they hate their job, they're kind of being underpaid, and they're just kind of, whining. They're doing the same thing that they did. And, I remember like there's a trip that we wanted to do where we wanted to travel to like Japan and like Italy and stuff, and they never went. They still haven't been. And I went. I was like, you know what? I don't have the money to travel to Japan right now, but I planned that trip and then found the money and then went to Japan. Like I started doing the travel. So I'm just saying, I think people make time to do the things they want to do, whether it's on a subconscious level or not. But you make time to do the things you want to do, and that's just something I really want to preach. Is that you know the struggle is real, but I think most of the time people are causing their own struggle in the sense that like, okay, you want to make, like, for example, right, like a comic or something. It's like, yeah, you want to make a comic, and you keep talking about the comic, and you maybe start thinking about the story, but then you just talk about it. It's like, well, nothing's stopping you. I mean, there's a piece of paper right in front of you. I'm sure you have a smartphone. I'm sure you have a laptop. You can make that comic. But what you want is to hand me out. You want some producer to just somehow discover you and be like, oh, I'm going to pay you $1 million, and we're going to give you a team to write your whole comic and stuff like that. But 99.9% of the time, percent of the time, it's people that had to do their own thing. They picked up that piece of paper, they learned how to draw, or they couldn't draw. They paid people to draw for them, and they just wrote the stories, or the vice versa. They had somebody write the story and they drew. But then people put it out there on these platforms, and then people find them through that. I don't know if anybody just goes up to you, and goes on the street, and you're just walking down on the producer's like, hey, you across the street, you look like you could be a great writer or a comic book person or something. And then they
Especially in
run up
Hollywood.
to you. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe in
especially.
Hollywood it's happened, I'm sure, one time if you're Brad Pitt, but I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
absolutely, man. And that's a common theme too, pushing through all of that red tape or like minutia, if you will, to get where you are today. I'm definitely hoping that shines through in this interview as well.
Yeah, I think the red tape is definitely very hard, and from experience, like, yeah, I work at Sony, but I might as well be working in Canada or somewhere far away, because those roadblocks are still there. Those obstacles are still there. They might not. It might seem like, oh yeah, the people that can just greenlight my script are right there. Like I can literally see them. I know who they are, but you can't just go up to them. I mean, you'll get escorted off the lot, And even if you try to talk to their assistant's going to give you the you know
Sure way.
the shoe away or
Yeah.
whatever, the workaround. And it's just, it doesn't help. It's really, and then also, I don't want to hate on LA because I have a bittersweet relationship. I mean, I love the food here, and I love the beach, and like, just there's so much stuff to do. Like if you're bored in Los Angeles, then you're staying inside and not getting out, because there's a lot of stuff to do. Having said that, it is overpriced, it's overcrowded, and it attracts, especially in the entertainment business, it attracts a certain type of person. and those people aren't always the most trustworthy or real, I guess. Like they're just, oh yeah, like they're very fake. Like a lot of them are very fake. They'll promise you the moon and the stars, but like not show up to that meeting, or just talking through their teeth. They're not really real, and it is a little soul sucking at times. Because you'll be surprised the lengths that people will go just to get ahead, but not really have anything to back it up or really be who they say they are. It's in this city, at least, that I'm kind of experiencing. So, just be aware of that, I guess, if you plan on moving out here as a creator.
Well, that's real. That's your experience, man. It's not an uncommon experience. People, I've heard that before too. So it's unfortunate. Um, especially you being a creative, doing what you love, and having to interact with that that type of person.
Actually, what's so funny, now that we're on the subject too, is that I remember when I started just kind of producing my own things and making my own stuff, I would, like hire a freelance, artist or writer or something like that for something. And I give them the specs and the breakdowns, and they'd be like, okay, yeah, yeah, sure. And then a month later, I'd be like, okay, I'm ready. And they're like, oh, you were serious? Like you're actually gonna do it? Like they're actually surprised when someone actually follows through. Like it's crazy, but that's how it is. Like people are so used to getting the
Mm,
runaround or just whatever, that when somebody actually does show up, they're like, oh, okay, all right, well, I guess we're in business. So it's extremely crazy how that's a thing. So
yeah. So going back to Georgia, even back a bit further, maybe into your childhood, maybe teen years or whatnot. What's the thing, experience that got you into creating content or being creative, telling stories? A person, maybe it's a person.
so I'd say two things. Is the very first thing I ever remember watching as a kid was I was in California, so I had to have been between 0 and 4. But I remember my parents were watching Alien, the movie Alien by Ridley Scott.
Wow.
And I walked in and I guess I was too young to be scared of the alien, but I was just like, what is that? And my mom's like, oh, what? That's a movie or something. She was explaining to me a movie, and I was like, oh, what's a movie? And she was like, it's like dreams but reality. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. It's like your dream, but you're actually seeing what's in your mind out in the real world. And that was really cool and fascinating concept to me. So I knew that was kind of what I wanted to do. I was like, this is what I want to do, make dreams a reality. And then fast forward maybe, I don't know, a year or two more, then Ghostbusters 2 came out, and I was obsessed with Ghostbusters 2, and I had a Nintendo and a Sega or whatever, but I had a Nintendo, and I was playing the first Ghostbusters game, and I was like, you know what? I want to write a second Ghostbusters game and create it and draw it out and make a storyboard or whatever, and then I'm gonna mail it to the people, and then they'll make a second game. And so I just drew, like, they're probably just doodles or whatever, but I had them in like 3 or 4, and I just drew a whole thing, and I was like, Mom, you're gonna mail this to the people who made Ghostbusters, and they're gonna make the second game. And I remember actually like a year later, my mom was like, here you go, and she actually showed me that they actually did make a second Ghostbusters game, but she really didn't mail it, obviously. But I just thought it was kind of cool that she reinforced that positively with like, oh yeah, you did it, you made the second game, they did it. And I was like, wow. Um so I don't know. I think from there I just kind of went back and forth between whether or not I wanted to do movies or video games. I kind of even dabbled with animation for a little while, and it still kind of goes back and forth because, film is kind of like its own beast, because you're spending more of your time kind of coordinating with other people and putting things together and just dealing with people, in general, just all sorts of different people and locations, that when you actually sit down to make the film, you're, one, exhausted, and two, that's the fun part, but the rest of it is like the hard part.
Mm,
Whereas like animation and video games is like, you could technically do it all yourself. I mean, you could technically do your own films as well, but I mean, you got to compete with Marvel these days, and no one's really going to see movies. There's a lot of oversaturation and stuff like that. But like video games, you could make your own game. It might take you a few years, but you could make it as good as a AAA game yourself, it would just take a little while or whatever. And I always thought that that was kind of cool. So obviously due to COVID, that's kind of where I'm dabbling now, is like with manga, comics, animation, video games. Because things have been kind of shut down. I am still doing film, mostly post production stuff, but yeah, it's just kind of interesting. And also one thing I want to say is that no matter what medium it is, the story is what matters the most. And if you don't have a good story, then you really don't have anything, whether it's film, animation, manga, video games. The story is key. And I know that there's a lot of people that know the technical side, but they don't understand story.
Mhm.
Me being one of them, it took me a long time to learn the story beats. Um, and once you learn storytelling, I think it opens up a whole new world to you, because you understand people and you understand emotions, and sometimes you get things wrong, and you go from there. But I think storytelling is definitely the main uh, takeaway from pursuing this kind of I guess format, is storytelling.
Yeah, that's really important. That comes through in your work. Definitely, the story is the core of a lot of what I saw. So definitely makes sense.
Appreciate it.
Were there any other? You talked about Alien and Ghostbusters. Were there any other TV shows, comic books, video games that inspired you can think of?
Oh, I mean, there's never ending list. I mean, I grew up with Batman, Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, Sonic. Sonic is actually probably a major influence. I'd say Sonic and Final Fantasy VII are like the major influences for me. And just, I mean, I remember Sonic was just cool and it was fun, and I got the concept of storytelling in the sense of like, this character is very unique because he's blue. This character is unique, Tails, because he's like an orange color. Knuckles is unique because he's red. And I think that that kind of even holds true today. If you look at like Power Rangers, I guess they were very unique because like, oh, this is the Blue Ranger, this is the Red Ranger. And I noticed that things, if you simplify stories, because you only have so much time to tell a story, if you can simplify characteristics, it's a lot easier for people to catch on to characters and catch on to your story.
Mhm.
But then Final Fantasy VII was like just mind blowing because it had so many different themes and side stories, and they all connected so well, and the characters were very diverse, and it was just, that was like a whole new world. That was like probably the step from being a child to early teenager, because
Mm.
it opened up romance and fighting and action. So that was, I would say, Final Fantasy VII's, the Final Fantasy series in general is the biggest influence on me of all video games. And then probably Batman comic books. I was obsessed with Batman comic books and Sonic comic books, but mostly Batman. I had so many Batman comic books. I didn't even know that comics would be a thing in the future, so I just read them. They're in horrible conditions. I mean, I got the Bane one where Batman gets his back broken, and then the futuristic Batman comes in, or like the crazy steroid Batman comes in and kills Bane, like breaks his thing, but then he has a falling out with Robin, and then Batman comes back and beats him. It's like, I didn't know those were going to be big, back then. So I just, I read them. They are folded. They're probably pages falling out. I'm sure they're worth probably a lot of money unopened.
Oh no.
Yeah. So,
That's really interesting to hear. Yeah, Batman and were you a fan of Batman the Beyond series by Christopher Nolan?
oh, you mean the Batman Begins, or that
Yeah,
thing, or Batman Beyond
I think that's a
cartoon?
trilogy.
Yeah. No, that I always joke that Batman Begins is my favorite movie of all time, but not because of it's a film, because I want to do that in real life. Like, I want to go be a ninja and train, and then come back like a superhero badass who also has $1 billion, who can like kind of change the world and stuff. So that to me is kind of like the most inspiring movie. Like, I will watch again and again and again. Just whenever I want to feel inspired to like get off my butt and do something, I'll watch Batman Begins. So yeah,
Awesome.
for sure.
Yeah, man. I kind of want to get into the Crusadia Connected series a bit. I have just a few questions about that. The series follows a pretty popular theme in the animation manga world right now, where the characters are transported to another world, and they're world. So you could have based your story in any setting or scenario. What made you choose that style or that genre for your webtoon?
So this is a really great question, and um, you know, this is I have like many ways I guess I can answer this. I think the first way is that I think there's too much negativity in the world right now, like the news, COVID,
Oh,
everyone's just fighting constantly. There's so much negativity, and I think that every time I turn on the YouTube or just anything, like just people are just destroying each other and they're fighting, and there's always this shock value too. Like the drama always has to be this shock value where it's like, oh, they're happy family, but the wife is sleeping with the next door neighbor or something like that. And it's just like, man, I just can't stand all the negativity. So I'm always going to choose hands down fantasy over anything else, because I think we all need escapism and we need more positivity and get away from like these, you know, things that like kind of like hold us down as like a race, a species. So I'm always going to do fantasy because, it's always easy to have, I guess, there's some really successful fantasies where you apply real world issues to fantasy. And I think in that aspect, it's fine to do that kind of stuff, and also, a tricky thing with fantasy too is you still need to make your characters relatable. So, but anyway, okay. So that was kind of like the reason I chose fantasy. And a funny story about Crusadia Connected, in general, is that I had this idea for the idea, um, like years ago, and it was just kind of a throwaway idea because I was like, okay, spoilers for anybody who plans on reading it. I mean, it's only the spoilers for the second chapter, but it's kind of the twist. It's so hard to like I want to hook people in because I know this is the hook, but at the same time, it's kind of fun to read it and then be like, oh, end of the second chapter, whoa, mind blowing hook, okay. But I always thought it'd be kind of funny I was watching a lot of One Punch Man and like reading it, and I thought it was so funny how the main character just one shots everybody, and I was like, you know what, I want to take the most useless character in the series and give him like the strongest stats. And so he just one hit kills everybody. But the thing is, he doesn't know how to use any of the controls, doesn't care about video games or whatever. And I think that's the hook. So it starts off, and you meet Alexander, the main character, and he's got all the traits. He's got the typical stereotypical brown hair. Um, he's got the he's the personality that everyone kind of reflects them. I forgot what it's called. The one you associate yourself into. You kind of put yourself into him. And he's got all the traits. He's got the heart of gold, and he's been training hard. Just so you think he's going to be the chosen one. He's given the big break.
yeah, like the stereotypical protagonist.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
shonen protagonist. And then he's got this brother, this older brother, who's kind of like he's past being the kid stage, and he doesn't really care about video games, and he's just there's other reasons that I don't that are things I don't want to spoil, but he essentially just doesn't care at all. He doesn't give a crap. And Alexander, there's like this one day, this is the premise, but one day there's an announcement that there's this big sword that will be bestowed to one player to save the whole game from breaking and stuff like that. And they're going to have a contest, but in order to sign up for the contest, you have to make a team of 5 people. And so Alexander recruits, a diverse cast of characters, but he only manages to have a team of 4. And the countdown starting, and he's got like 10 seconds left. So he's like, oh, I need my brother Eric. Like he's the only person. I have run out of I've run out of options. So he gets Eric. He's like, dude, please help me. He's like, I don't even know how to play. Like I'm don't throw me into this. He's like, I'll just teach you. Just sign up with me, and we're gonna go. And so they sign up together. They get in, and then it's like, oh, okay. So now the game's on. Now you're in it. You're with the protagonist. He somehow made it. There's stakes, and then lo and behold, they make it all the way to the end. You have all the elite characters there. You have Alexander. Spoilers. Eric's the one who gets the sword because he falls asleep at the control. He hits the forward button. He accidentally walks into the sword and obtains it. While everyone's so busy bickering over it, he gets it. So, and then it's just that's very interesting now, because now you got a character who doesn't know how to play, but he's a perfect catalyst to the story, because now people have to naturally organically tell him the story, like how the game works. You get to see how everything works through this character now who doesn't really know, um, how to do everything. And it's like, how do you tell the story by still, and the more interesting thing is how to keep Alexander as the main protagonist while having Eric be the big plot point. Um, and so it may not be obvious, but there is hints, and there's definitely things progressing that will lead you to know why Alexander is still the protagonist, at the end of the day. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And kind of the throwaway thing was like, it'd be so funny to just kind of
One Punch
have
Man.
this happen, and it's actually meant to be a lot more funny, where Eric was supposed to just kind of summon the sword at random and one punch people again and again and again. But like,
It still happen, man.
I mean, it still will happen, but I kind of fell in love with the characters, and I kind of wanted to take it kind of like, as I was writing, it just kind of took up its mind of its own. So now it's just kind of a mix, I'd say, of everything. I want to have like some drama, some romance here and there, some action, some comedy. So yeah.
I never thought about that, but that is a perfect way to inform the audience through Eric, who's not familiar with the game or the universe at all.
Yeah, and yeah. So I mean, I think instead of people, I notice a lot of writers when they start off, they'll like try to tell you the lore and the rules and everything, and it's like it's too much information at once. So I just want to have it, you're right in the middle of the action with Alexander trying to find people, and then he's got this anomaly. Eric is in the team, so it's like he's got the team of 5, but he's got one really weak member, doesn't even know how to play. So how are they going to get from the beginning of this competition all the way to the end with this weak member, and not to mention all these other new members that he doesn't even know yet. They're just complete strangers. So you get to kind of know who they are. I mean, by far my favorite character is Shishi. And she's like this little 12-year-old, Chinese girl who she's kind of like a rich spoiled brat with an attitude, but she's very funny and very like angry, and like I love that character. It's my favorite character, and it's just, you can have a lot of fun with her because she doesn't take any crap from anybody, and like her, and like any chance I get, I want to pair Eric and Shishi together, because Eric just doesn't know how to do anything, and she just doesn't want to put up with it. So there's going to be some funny stuff, especially in the finale. So
Yeah, I was gonna kind of ask you about that group dynamic. You have Alexander, Alphonse, Mina, Shishi, and Eric, and they're the party of 5.
mhm.
Um, why were you inspired to create that group dynamic in your webtoon? Or have you seen it before, or was it just what was the inspiration for that?
I think okay. So whenever I think like when you're storytelling, I think it's good to be organic, and to be realistic with it. And this is a game that is played online. It's an MMO. You don't know everybody on there. They're going to be from all over the world anyway. And so I think that it makes sense for them to get kind of people from all over. So I think it works in that sense organically, where it's like, oh, well, I don't have anybody. This is a competition. It's a global competition. Might as well be as inclusive as possible. And I also think that, you know, I look and I say, oh, I want as many people to be able to associate themselves with a character in the series as they're watching it. And so I chose Alexander because he's kind of like the stereotypical main protagonist, but I also want other people that may not fit that look, or may not associate with the stereotypical protagonist of shonen series and stuff. I want them to be able to find a character that they can love, and kind of be around. So that's why Alfonso is black, African American. He's actually Alexander's brother. I mean, best friend. I was gonna say brother, but best friend. So they actually go to the high school together. And Mina is also Japanese, but she's also in high school with them as well. So you have them three. Then she's from China, and Eric's obviously Alexander's older brother. But you just get. I think it lends to one, it stretches me as a writer because I get to do more research. I get to kind of use what I've learned just from friends I actually have that are like that. Because I mean, Alfonso, I think his I came up with him because when I was playing Final Fantasy VII, I had this friend named Kevin, and he looked, you know, kind of like Alfonso. I kind of, you know, modeled him a little bit off of how I used to look, and you know, from my, you know, 5-year-old memory or whatever. But I remember we just played Final Fantasy together, and we were just best friends playing this game, and so that's kind of like their dynamic together, just being bros. You know, it was easy to just kind of adopt that. Shishi, I don't really know how I came up with her. I just thought I wanted some kind of firecracker character, and I don't know. I think I just got back from China, and I have a friend named Shishi, so it just kind of that just clicked, I think. And then I also wanted Mina to be Japanese because, you know, I mean, this is a shonen. I want it to be manga. I want, you know, Japanese readers to be able to associate with this as well. So I was just like, you know, and plus I love Japanese culture as well. So like I went to Japan. It's beautiful, and so I had to have a Japanese character in there as well. So I mean, there's definitely others, you know, like side characters, but those are the core group. And you know, it wasn't like, you know, it has to be this way, it has to be this way. It was just kind of like people I met from my experiences, you know, the dynamics that I'm used to, and going from there. So
No, that's definitely reflected in the series. The characters all seem very organic.
yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, if you really think about it from like a subconscious perspective, I guess technically everybody is a subconscious part of me. Like, you know, she's probably the anger, doesn't give a crap. Mina's probably the more bashful side of me. Eric's the like I'm overworked, constantly working side that just can't have fun. Alexander's the you know, I want to do better. I want to be a better person. Alfonso's like, hey, you know, I want to support my friends. I want to be just a better person and make other people better. So it's just like it's all there in a way. It's just you have to if you know me, I think you can probably tell like which parts of me or which character you know. But yeah, I think it's good to be organic as possible and just you know write what you know and yeah, that's kind of what I know and I hope it works. Yeah, I hope it's working. So.
Works for me, man. I wanted to ask you about the future of Crusadia Connected. Are there other platforms potentially in the future? I saw something about an animated short in there, so I just wanted to ask you, what does the future look like for this series?
Thank you for asking. So this, uh, so I usually do film. That's my world. I do shorts. I've done, you know, I tried to do a couple features. I mean, these are all like self-financed or like got somebody to kind of finance them a little bit or something. It's actually it's funny because the struggle was so real up until maybe I'd say 3 years ago, and then that's when things started getting interesting. I started getting people to kind of invest in my projects and actually put real money down,
Mm-hmm.
where it was like, oh, this is actually finance. Like I could say proudly, this is what I could do with this amount of money being fully budgeted. So, but then COVID hit, and you know all those people kind of disappear. They're like, well, I do want to invest, but we're gonna have to wait till COVID's over. Um, and so I found myself with a lot of time, and you know, you can't go out as much, so I was able to save a lot more money. And so I was kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna do what I can do. I'm gonna tell stories from my home, and so that was how the manga, you know, the web comic started.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so so I'm just kind of man, what a learning curve that was too, because learning how to because like it's kind of like I would say it's almost like a studio. It's like Grant Film Studio in a sense because like I do write everything and I came up with like the designs and like how I wanted them to be and wrote the scripts and like I tell them, you know, like this is how I want everything to go, the shots and stuff. And you know, I have to get artists like freelancers to help, you know, bring that to life and also help make my little sketches designs better and
Mm-hmm.
professional. And one, it took a long time is a learning curve to figure out how to translate stuff to a comic, and then also how to get writers, artists that kind of worked with what I wanted to do. And it's funny because there's some writers, I mean, there's some artists that I'll have that will like come in for like more funny chapters and more action packed chapters. And I'll be like, oh, you're so good with just Alexander. And so if there's a solo chapter of Alexander, you get it. And then if there's, you know, with the whole group, there's definitely a writer. I mean, I definitely have my top two I keep saying writers. I don't know why I keep saying that. Artists, um, manga artists, and the top two. Like, I definitely have my top two, and they're definitely going to be my final two that I kind of take with me um, forward. And yeah, we just kind of, and you know, also you just kind of have to keep track of all the different things, because if somebody's doing one chapter, you have to keep track of what they've done, if there's any changes, and you have to make sure you tell that person. So it really gets tough to keep track of everything, you know, like, oh, this desk actually is going to be a different color now, or this desk has this chair instead of that chair from the reference. And so I have to tell the other writer, and like, it's crazy. Uh, so that's so anyway, that wasn't the question, but I just want to say it's been evolving. And
It's
so,
cool, man. It's
and
cool.
so another thing that's kind of happened is that during COVID, I actually had the opposite. Is I actually kind of had an increase of, I guess, jobs and stuff. I'm, you know, very very lucky. I mean, my wife, she lost her job because she was in event coordinating, and you can't really do any events, obviously. But I actually, since I have an editing, I can edit and do motion graphics and stuff. I actually got an increase of work because now everything that was being shot or whatever is in post production and stuff like that. So I've been slammed with just commercials work, you know, anything, honestly, like any company work, or just broadcast work, or anything you can think of. And so that actually allowed me to kind of build my own studio, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very minimal, you know, like I'm talking like just freelance artists. I can't really bring people on, but it's been
Gotta start
really,
somewhere.
yeah, it's a start. Like, I can actually be like, okay, you're actually hired. Like, here's a 1099, you know, tax form. We're gonna report back every couple weeks, you know, once per week or something like that, and you give me updates and stuff like that. So I've never really had that before, and it's been kind of interesting. But having said that, I've been able to kind of finance a lot of things, and so I was able to get an animator to do Crusadia Connected, like a promo. And so we did a promo to kind of just show, like, you know, it was kind of just to get the word out a little bit more. And I didn't actually put in money for a marketing budget. So as soon as I get to a stopping point or like a pausing point with the webcomic, I'm going to put some money aside and then try to market it a little bit better. Because marketing is, man, it's a whole other beast. I mentioned that earlier, but like, yeah, I have the promo and I have the web series, but now I have to market it, and I've got to get people to see it, and you've got to, man, it's just so exhausting. I don't know how anybody does it. So when people critique other people's work, I definitely think, you know, really consider all the work that they're really having to do, because you got to do a lot of stuff, including market yourself, and it's just exhausting, and it's impossible to really do it all. So you really do have to have some luck on your side of just having the right people see it and stuff like that. But long story short, yeah, I definitely gonna try with City Connected specifically. Is I have the animated promo. I'm gonna do a marketing campaign. I also am making a mobile game for it. It's gonna be kind of like a virtue puzzle fighter game. I don't know if anybody's ever played Virtue Puzzle Fighter, but it's kind of like a Tetris, but you kind of battle one another. So you can
I see
choose
that.
like Mina and Alexander, or Alfonso and Lucas and Eric and whoever. And you just kind of playing Tetris with somebody. It's a mobile game, so you know you can play against the computer, local, and unlock the characters, because you're only going to start off with Alexander and Eric, but you can unlock as you beat the characters on the local game. Then you can play as them, and then you can play online with people in like there's like a forum or whatever. You can go and pair you up with somebody, and you can play against them. And there's going to be like a little ranking system, but it's just a little basic game. But you know, every little thing helps, I like to think, and hopefully that'll help promote something. And I'm gonna have a shop where, you know, if there's like some characters that you personally liked from the series that aren't the main characters, you can, you know, purchase them for like $1 or something like that. But I'm gonna take every little bit of money that I make from the mobile thing, and try to make my own animated series. Like just try to make a pilot, start with that. And I mean, I technically have the money to do it, but then the web comic would stop and any other thing would stop. Like that would just be it. Like I would have to just do one episode and that would take a full year, and then another episode and that would take a full year. And it just would be very time consuming. So I'd rather just start. I want to, I guess, maybe help hopefully get enough uh, interest so that maybe outside people who could just make the series in one go will hopefully find it. But if not, I mean, I'm not going to stop. I'm definitely going to keep it going. Now, having said that, this is another venture that I just kind of picked up other than Crusadia Connected. And this is like a game I kind of had. I was really obsessed with Uncharted, the game series for PlayStation. And
very popular.
Yeah. And I got really fed up with being inside all last year. So I kind of came up with an idea for like a travel game, for like, just like Uncharted. It'd be third person, kind of similar controls. And we just now started developing that. So that's actually going to come out, sometime I think early next year for the PC and then PlayStation. But I'm just making a proof of concept. So it's going to be like an hour-long game, one big level, like a big castle with like a dungeon and stuff. But it'll definitely have the Uncharted for quality. Like I've already looked at at one or two of the characters, and they look just like Nathan Drake from. I mean, not his design, but the quality of how they're modeled and stuff like that, and like the levels. And we're using Unreal Engine 4, so
nice.
It's going to be good. And then that's going to be, kind of a pay-to-play thing, and I'm going to take every little bit of that, and hopefully, depending on how much it makes, if it makes enough, I'm going to make the full game, like a full story, the actual story. And if it makes more, then I'm going to apply that to the Crusadia Connected. I'll deviate the budget accordingly. So either way, there's something going to come out of Grant Studios, some point next year.
You have a master plan, man. And those things are all really connected really nicely. So that's incredible to hear. COVID didn't slow you down at all.
No, it made me frustrated and bored, I guess, enough to like make me want to do other things. So I'm actually kind of happy too. And I think I find it way less stressful in the sense you don't have to coordinate. I mean, you do have to coordinate, but it's not as, oh, we have to shoot tomorrow. Do we have all the gear? Do we have everything? It's less like in the moment stressful. It's more like a minimal stress, but like ongoing minimal stress, as opposed to high highs and low lows when you're filming like a production and stuff. So
awesome. That's really incredible. I definitely wanted to give you the option here. We could take a quick break and come back and talk about cinematography, maybe the works you've done there, or we could cap the interview here and I can have you back to talk about that.
It's up to you. I do have to just respond to speaking of like a freelancer, there's a guy who has been waiting for me to just respond. If you just want to take like a 5-minute break, I can come back and then we can finish up.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break. I'll pause the recording and then I'll keep the Zoom room open.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate it. I'll be back in about 5.
Awesome. Welcome back, man. So your storytelling extends into things like, The Egg, your fan fiction works, and Love Never Forgets, which I found really special. I really like that. So what attracts you to cinema? What is it about the medium, pulls you in and keeps you coming back?
I don't know what it really is. I think it's because I'd have to like really talk to like subconscious Fred, but it's definitely not the pain and misery, that's for sure, in the long hours. But I'd say it's like it's maybe because like you feel like you get to know. It's like my favorite thing, is because I never got to do it really, is traveling. I like to like ever since I turned 29, I just was like, you know what, I'm gonna go on 2 trips outside the country a year. And so far, other than COVID, I was able to do it. And it's kind of like you get to do a bunch of different things. You get to meet a bunch of different people, and you get to see a bunch of different lives. You get a bigger perspective on things. And like, I feel like honestly, as a storyteller, that's really the biggest thing that gives me the edge is that, you know, people try to say, they say that, oh, I want to make a global international movie, you know, but it's like for like both America and China, but it's like, have you been to China, or have somebody from China, have they been to the US? And it's like, I think you need to spend some time in both places, and you know, get to know the people and like kind of what they, and I'll tell you, like, you know, as much as we are the same, we're very different as well, like in the sense of like, we all have different experiences, we all have different governments, that's a big one, you know, and we all have different mentalities, and there's also things that, you know, like here America is very free, and there, I know, like, just an example, but like I went somewhere and it, like, literally I had the Weather Channel app, and it said like hazardous air quality. You know, like, you know how it says cloudy or sunny. I went to this one place. It literally, instead of cloudy or sunny, it said hazardous air quality. And then I was like, you know, I commented. I was like, do you guys see this? And they're like, oh, I don't notice. You know, but you could tell they totally noticed, but they're just not allowed to say anything. You know, so um, anyway, I'm going off subject, but I think that the fact that I like traveling and experiencing so many different things, and I like to just observe. I like to observe people. I know I'm talking a lot during this, but it's because COVID. I'm not usually this talkative. You ask anybody, I'm like more like Eeyore. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to. But
That's good,
you know,
man.
but I think that's what it really is that, you know, when you're doing film, you get to learn about different people and different experiences, and like, you know, there's so many things. Just I mean, the biggest thing I learned was literally living from Georgia and California. Like just doing that little bit of a move, you see a whole different world. Like people think differently. There's things
Yes.
that you never would have even known, that people thought, you know, back home, you know, back in Georgia, but they didn't say anything because it just wasn't the thing, you know. So it's like there's just so many things that you just never think of. And I think also the biggest thing is like living with a woman, you get to see kind of like you get to hear their problems, like how they feel. And the funny thing too is like when I'm writing women characters, I've noticed it's changed a lot. Like I definitely try to throw in some fan service for the boys, you know, stuff like that. But for the most part, I feel like I learned to make more realistic women characters because I get to see, you know, how they feel, and how, you know, catcalling is a big issue, and there's like you know, they constantly feel put down, and how they're portrayed in things as being kind of dumb but like good looking, and like, you know, there's not much more to the character. And you know, it's funny because like I almost see like Hollywood when they're talking about like strong female characters. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, you're saying you want a strong female character, but you're not really doing it because you're probably a writer from, you're probably just this old man who's not married, and you're trying to write a strong female character, or you're trying to overcompensate by like making the girl super overpowered. And it's like just write the person, you know, write a person, you know, ask them, you know, like, and here's the thing too about storytelling as well, is that you have to be really careful as a writer and storyteller, because like I can bring my work to people and I'll be like, hey, how does this look? And they'll read it and they're like, oh yeah, it's great. And then I'll be like, well, what about this? And they're like, oh yeah, no, I didn't really like that part. It's like, why didn't you say so? Like, why didn't you say you didn't like that when I asked you, you know? They're like,
Yeah.
well, you know, whatever. So it's like you have to be you have to, I think what you need to do is get people that are honest with you, that will give you good feedback. And then not, I mean, here's the thing is like, I'll see a movie, you'll see a movie. I might like the movie, you might hate the movie, but we watch the exact same movie. So why did I like it and you hate it? So people can look at the same thing and completely take away different things because you're not seeing things for how they are, you're seeing things for how you are. And that's a big, I think, philosophy, psychology saying is that you're projecting yourself onto these things in your experiences. So, um, so like, yeah, you can take away different things, but you have to also be smart enough to know what things you should actually change and what things you shouldn't, like stick with your guns on, because a lot of times people don't really know your full vision. But then again, if there's common denominators where everyone's like, yeah, you have to change this is just bad, you know, then you should probably consider it, you know, if everyone's telling you the same thing. But the biggest thing is to get people to tell you the real thing. So yeah, sorry, going back to the question is like, I just like storytelling, and I think a good way to just try different things, different experiences, different stories. Yeah.
That was great, man. You actually answered a few of my questions in there. So thank you for
Oh,
that.
okay. Great. Yeah.
I just have one last formal question. Where do you see Grant Studios 10, 20 years down the road? What's the vision?
It's funny because I used to I used to plan everything out. Like my entire life I would be like, I mean, not my entire life, like when I was, high school, I didn't really have a plan. I was just like, yeah, maybe I'll do videos or something like that. Um, but like I think when I got to college, that's when I was like, at this age, I want to do this. I want to focus on this. At this age, I want to focus on this. Like I had it down to detail. Like I was gonna, have make this much money by this age, or I was gonna live in this place by this age. I was gonna try to look for getting married at this age, like have kids at this age, stuff like that. So I think nowadays, especially COVID, is definitely throwing off things. It's postponed because like I've been wanting to move for like the longest time to like Seattle or Washington or Washington State area. Um, and that's definitely pushed it back 2 years. So it's like and they also pushed back weddings and uh, and it's probably gonna. We have certain things we want to do, but it's really hard to foresee it. So I definitely have like goals. Like here's the thing that I decided is that I'm gonna make the things I want to do regardless if Hollywood wants to see it or if people want to buy it. Like I think that in general, as long as you're productive, you're growing and you're happy. Um, as long as you're growing, that's the biggest thing. You have to be constantly learning something new every single day. I don't care what it is, how small it is, but if you learn something new every single day, you didn't waste that day. So for me, as far as like Grant, right now it's Grant Films. I'm gonna change the LLC to Grant Studios because it's kind of expanded into just film now. It's gonna be a video game and web comic and stuff. Another thing to do on the list. So, but for that, like I've already said, like I'm going to have this video game made. Like I'm not sure what I want to call it. It's either going to be called Brothers Elliot or Lore. And I'm gonna make that game. Like it's gonna get made. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but that's gonna be it. Like it's like my maybe 2 year, 5 year plan to make the full game. And then also I'm gonna have at least one episode of Crusadia Connected made into a professional anime. And I don't know how long it's gonna take, but it will definitely happen. It's also in the 5 year plan. Um, so I think I'm just gonna set goals and then just be like, this is my focus and try to hit those deadlines. So that's pretty much the future of it. There's gonna be 5 seasons of Crusadia Connected web series. So maybe 5 anime seasons, I guess. There's technically a sixth. I'm only gonna write the sixth though, if like it's popular and people are like, yeah, more encore or whatever, because it kind of is like it's like a happy cliffhanger, I guess. It's like it has a happy sort of ending, but um, there is an actual ending that I've already planned out for a sixth season. That's like a final definite. This is the ending. If you want to see it, you can, but I'm planned to budget for just 5 seasons. So right now we're on chapter, I think I just posted 16 or 15, but there's going to be 25 episodes for season one. And then I don't know, I've outlined season two, season three, season four, season five. I'm assuming they're going to be about the same. So, I mean, we're looking at about, 6 years of Crusadia Connected web comic. I'm hoping though, I mean, the thing is I went all out on the budget for that, and then it's gonna get reduced big time. So we're gonna start seeing maybe chapters posted once a month, as opposed to every week or every other week. Just because the fan base has got to be there to support it, or else there's not going to be. It's just when the money's there, it's there. So if the money's not there to just crank out the whole series in like one go. So it's going to be when the money's there. So I definitely encourage fans to talk about it, spread the word. Um, you know, if there's any kind of mobile game, make purchases, or whatever, every little bit is going to be used. It's not going to be used to traveling or my own personal wallet. Like, I mean, yeah, you may look around. I mean, no, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I am, but like, if you look at the bank account, it's still paycheck to paycheck because every single bit I get goes to a project, in some way, shape, or form. So just keep in mind, if you like what you're seeing, your dollar is going to go towards what it's meant to go to.
This has been really an incredible interview, man. You provided a lot of context on the series. Thank you so much for just sharing with us today. I'd love to do this again sometime in the future and have you back. Maybe dive more into the cinematography and see where Crusadia Connected is.
Cool. Yeah. Anytime, just let me know. I'm always happy to rant, especially during COVID. Being inside.
Well, now I just want to give you the opportunity, tell the people where you are, where you want to send them. We'll be sending out, obviously, we'll be creating a Storymakers page for you to put a lot of content there. But in the meantime, is there a place you want people to go, Instagram, website, whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, there's Crusadia Connected Instagram. You just go to Instagram, type in Crusadia Connected. The main official page will pop up. There's the web comic, obviously on Webtoon, Tastic, website apps, Crusadia Connected. Check it out. Support, subscribe, tell your friends. The biggest thing is to subscribe and tell your friends and get the word out because the more people that share, word of mouth is the key, to making it a success. And it might not seem like it, but every single person, even if you're watching this now and you're like, oh no, it's not gonna matter. It matters. Like trust me, every single person. Because I would see like 800 followers, and I'd be like, oh gosh, we're never gonna get to 900. And then I got 801 followers. I'm like, thank you, 801 followers. And then before I knew it, like 2 weeks later, it's 813 and whatever. So it does build up. It does. It really does. So I'm just saying, everybody, pitch in. And actually, if I might, I'm just gonna do a little plug right here. And I have this app coming out. It's called My Buddy, MIBUDI. I kind of went with like the iPhone, the I instead of a Y, but
Mhm.
it's My Buddy. It's a pet app it's like a Facebook for pets. So if you're sick of having your phone full of pets and you're scrolling around, you're like, oh gosh, I have no memory. Just put them on My Buddy. It's an app. It's on the iPhone store, Android store. It's just now available, with all the updates and everything. And yeah, you can create your own profile, create your pet's profile, meet other pet people. You could probably even find, maybe there's some romance on there if you have, if somebody else who's got a cute little kitty just like you can have a little pet date. But
That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. So just wanted to plug
Yep.
that little thing.
Definitely, man. That's really cool. I never thought about that, pet dates.
Well, I mean, it's just one aspect. Actually, another thing about it too is that, um, if you lose your pet, you can also you can say where you lost it, and it'll notify everybody with the app as to where you lost your pet. So, and adoption as well. If you, like, let's say your cat has like a litter of 9 or something,
Hmm.
you can make it a profile and you can put it up for adoption. We don't handle adopting. Like, you just have to contact the owner yourself. But hey, at least it's one more outlet to get people, so these pets aren't just abandoned in boxes on the street. So
Yeah, man. Maximum reach, more eyes on, definitely.
yeah.
Thanks again, Fred, and thanks to all those listening and watching wherever you are. Be sure to visit storystorm.co/storymakers to listen to the full transcript of this interview and to see what else Fred is working on. Also, stay locked in our social media feeds for more from the Storymaker series, free digital art, paid contests, storytelling resources, and more. All right, Fred, can I get you to do just a piece on three? I'm going to give you a countdown. Peace. Okay, good enough, man. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording now. Okay.
All right, sounds good.